Was good? It's your boy, Supreme Sunday. Enjoying a beautiful, but a little humid Sunday out east. It was a lot humid before, so I didn't come outside. Cleared up a little bit, so the sun came back out. Catching a little color for during the week. So I figured I'd jump on and give you guys a good story. Everybody's always asking, about the guys I hung out with, what we do. Well, the type of things that we did was probably everything that everybody wanted to be doing in their life, but they felt like they'd be watched, they'd be judged. But the guys that I ran with didn't care. To a point. And then eventually, all the rules were. But again, I'll say it. When we went out, of course, they had to act a certain way, and I treated them with that respect. But when we were together, we went out as guys that were friends since we're 17, 18 years old. So there's one time, Alphonse gets us all front row tickets to the Holyfield Hassim fight in 2002, summer. Probably the first day, I think, of June. So it wasn't even summer yet, but it was summer, but not officially. And it was at the Atlantic City Convention Center. He got them from, he was a big Trump supporter of the gambling. This was way before all the politics, 2002. So it was after 9/11. Everybody was starting to get back to living normal. We never stopped living. Of course, we mourned for the country and we respected the flag and all of that, absolutely. But in their life and that life that was going on, and in my life of selling drugs, the show must go on. So when the borders opened and the loads start coming across again, business as usual. Business for them. As soon as sports picked back up, business went back to the same. Loans, that stuff started taking a little while to pick up. By this time, everything was a little back on track, and everybody was still doing, they were all doing phenomenal. That's what this crew was. So he gets us all front row seats to see, we were all big boxing fans, some more than others. I was going hard at the time. I was a big Sugar Shane Mosley fan at the time. Kind of let me down in his career. Seeing the Judas fight, all the Judah family they were all great boxers. Of course, Zab, because he's the famous, but he had brothers that boxed as well. Shout out to Paul Malignaggi, of course, Brooklyn boxer. Didn't know him, but he fought a war against Pacquiao. Either a broken wrist or a broken hand for two rounds in that fight. So this was towards it. Boxing wasn't what it used to be, but it was still something that we were all a part of and we loved. Because she still had a good hand. Prince Nassim, they're actually seen on TV in Mohegan Sun at one of the Prince's fights. I didn't go that trip. Actually, I forgot where I was. But they actually took somebody they weren't too fond of, but that hung around me. They gave him the ticket to go with them. But that was actually a good fight with the Prince. We used to like watching the Prince fight. Wasn't everybody's favorite fighter, but he was good. And again, thank you all, my supporters. I appreciate everything. Everybody thinks money. This has nothing to do with money. There's no money involved. There's no money for being monetized. It's pennies. It's nothing. I just appreciate that you go on and view my shows the way you do. Keep it up. You're going to enjoy them. Let people say they're entertaining. Whatever. I don't care. The Irishman was written. The Irishman was made into a movie. The people that wrote it, the people that made it into a movie knew there was things wrong with it, and they still went on with it, right? I'm telling you it's facts, this is truth, this is what happened, but take it like that then. Take it as entertainment, take it as anything you want. Just as long as the guy out there knows what I'm talking about, or I should say, the guy out there that needs to know what I'm saying, gets it, that's all that matters. everybody else that you're doing good and you're going to work and you're going home, and use it for entertainment. Again, the content is for everybody, not kids, everybody of the age, but hopefully useful to the guys that need it. So we get front row tickets to the Holyfield Raheem Hassim fight, and he was an up and comer. We didn't think Holyfield was going to stand a chance, but in Holyfield manner, he pulled it through. Why? And you know something? We were sitting right there. We actually ended up in the second or third row. I'm going to tell you something. Holyfield's family came to that fight. 6 of us. I think we had our full crew there that day. There's 6 of us that were together all the time. Could have been 5 at the fight. 5 in Atlantic City. We wound up with like 30. But our crew that went to the fight, that hung out every day, ate every day, broke bed every day, we were at that fight. I'm not sure if the 6th person was there. But we all were there. Dressed to the nine. That was like listen, baseball games. We were wearing suits. Until the whole sneaker craze and hat stage came in, which I couldn't wait for. It was suits everywhere we went at night. So we got front row tickets. Ringside. Let me give it to you, and I'm trying to, so you can understand it better. Atlantic City Boardwalk. Used to be a convention center there. I don't think it's there anymore. I think after Sandy it went away, or maybe even before that. So Holyfield's fighting. I think it was called the Royal, something Royal Comeback or something. This is right off the dome, people. And I mean, I was glad. I never got to see Holyfield box in person, so they all knew like it was a big deal for me. For them, it wasn't. They like boxing, just another day out for them. They enjoyed it. They went, everybody had a good time. So Holyfield's family comes, and they're sitting like 3rd row. And I remember John Turturro. Was it John Turturro? Who was John Turturro? No, the other guy. What's his name? John Turturro's Italian. Spanish guy. I don't even know how I got them mixed up. They played in a movie together, I think. Gotta get this guy's name. Spanish guy. What's his name? Can't remember. We're gonna go on with the story, but he was a big actor. Spanish actor. Played in Empire something in the Bronx. From the Bronx. He was sitting 2nd row. And I remember we had, the guys that I was with, they're pretty big. Yeah. Even Al was in the gym 5 days a week then. And he's big to begin with. He's like 5'11", 5'10", maybe even 6 foot. And everybody else we were with was over 6 foot but me. So they were pretty big guys. Suits on, sitting in the front row, 5, 6 guys. And she started getting worried and upset at one of his daughters. I don't know how many, but it was one daughter that was there. I think it was like 2 or 3 people. That's all it was that he had there that was ringside. And, I think it was John Turturro, not John Turturro. I got to remember this guy's name, Spanish guy. I keep thinking John Turturro. We've seen John Turturro. That was the reason why I keep thinking of his name. And I'm gonna say, you know why I'm bringing this guy up? Somebody left in the comments when we were ever at the Jimmy Bronx Cafe, if we ever hung out with Fat Joe Big Pun. First of all, we did run into Fat Joe. Wasn't at Jimmy Bronx Cafe. They may have a few times because they were frequent at Jimmy Bronx Cafe. They were actually there before Tito Puente died. Tito Puente held his birthday party there. I wasn't there. Another thing I missed. Probably got beefed at about that because that was like a full hands on deck. Yeah. Full. Not all. It was a full hands on deck that night. And I wasn't around. It's always, I guess would they tell the state when they were looking for me? Who knows what Rocky's going to crawl out from under? Was one of their statements. I think it was Al. I was out with somebody. I just don't remember, for the weekend or whatever. And they went there. Tito Puente. If I probably would have known or remembered, I definitely would have made it there for Tito Puente's birthday party because he was getting up there in age. And I think that was like one of his last birthday parties that he had before he passed away. But that guy acted in a movie with Big Pun, Empire something. They were drug dealers in the Bronx. And the Fat Joe, I'm going to answer that before going on with the story. We had a place in our neighborhood that was very well connected. It used to be called Tooties, Meet Your Tooties. I mean, it was like, it goes back to probably before my family was even in this country. My father, at least. Probably at least my father. And it used to be called Tooties Bar. And I never wanted it to fall in the wrong hands. So it kept falling, someone kept buying it in the neighborhood. And then someone wound up buying it and turning it into a really nice lounge. Upstairs, downstairs. It was a bar club, but loungy. And that person was connected to somebody in the Terror Squad camp. And they were filming a Tony Sunshine and Angie Martinez video there. Fat Joe was there with his crew, because he's like the leader of that crew. Cuban Link, I think, was one of them. Yeah, because I think it was Cuban Link and Angie Mar, because after that, that's when Fat Joe, I think, had the beef with Cuban Link. And we were outside the Navigator. It was a while ago, so they were still driving Navigators. And I remember the whole crew was sporting some serious weight in watches. And somebody had an AP iced out. And back then, they weren't what they were today. There was still money for what, for that time, but not how jewelry is today. And Fat Joe came out. And he had an iced out whatever on. Who knows what it could have been, a Jacob, could have been anything. And he says to my boy, Mike, nice watch. And I was like, thanks. No, they just, regular guy. I think actually one of the people we were with, one of the guys we were with didn't even know who he was, and kept it moving. Back in 98, we owned the bar. And I had a piece of the bar, so I ran the bar for them during the night, during the week at night. I would run clothes for them because we wanted to keep this place going. But it was in Long Island, and of course the place was mobbed up, so nobody ever wanted to go. Another place we could have got off the ground beautifully, put a lot of money into the place. It was a shithole. It was across the street from the old Metro 700s on Long Island, and this place could have been great. So many things I've tried to do with that got just knocked down from the top. One of the bartenders, well, she was the head bartender there, beautiful girl. One of our good friends was Fat Joe's wife. And she used to come in the bar every other week or so, come out there to Long Island, and got to know her. She was a nice lady, nice girl at the time, married, always talked about her husband. And you knew because the car she drove every time was Fat Joe's green S-Class Benz, one of his cars that we had seen. But, of course, we knew she wasn't lying. So that's the connection that we ever had to Fat Joe and Big Pun. And his wife was friends with one of the head bartenders at a bar that we owned and I had a piece of. And that was across the street from the old Metro 700s. Used to be Ocean Club on Thursday nights. The bar's still there today. Could have been a good joint, but people knew who owned it, and we weren't from out there, but they knew everybody out there, and they just didn't want to come in there for trouble reasons. So it wound up collapsing before the millennial. So that's that. So now, this actor sitting in the second row. Now, follow me. All the stories connect. There's no contradiction. There's no all over the place. Told you that, where the connection was, which somebody asked a question on, and it falls into the story because that actor was sitting in the second row. And his daughter started wigging out, like the first or second, because it didn't look like Holyfield was going to win the fight. First of all, I think he should have retired already, but he was on his way to retirement. Come to find out, Lennox Lewis is chasing the winner of that fight. He really don't want to fight Holyfield, but he really wants to fight Hassan. That's what he wanted to, even before that fight, because they wound up stripping him from his belt. This is all one story, guys. He wound up getting stripped from his belt. I'm giving you a little boxing history. They wanted him to fight Bird on the Don King. He didn't want to fight Bird. He wanted to fight Hasim. And what happened was, if you know the outcome of that fight, Hasim loses. We're going to finish up. You know that already. I'm not ruining it for anybody. So he didn't want to fight to get to the, the championship, because now Hasim was the card. That was the guy you wanted to fight. So he wound up getting stripped of his belt, Lennox Lewis, if you know a little bit about boxing, by the commission, because he wouldn't fight Bird under the Don King banner. So early on, it looks like Holyfield is getting a little beat up. His daughter's crying, and really a little over dramatic, but it was real. So I remember this guy's agent, going, hey guys, you think that we can let, Holyfield's daughter get up front? So I was like, that's his daughter? We didn't know who the girl was crying. We didn't ask. She was in the third row. So we like, yeah, we're all going to get up. Tell her to come up here with whoever she's with. She was with her and 2 other people. We gave all our seats up, and we went to the third row where they were. Just happened to be enough seats. Now we're sitting third row. I don't know what round it was by then. The actor's in between us, and Holyfield's family's in the front row. Somewhere along the lines, Holyfield headbutts this guy. And I pretty much think it was in the 6th round, from what I could have told. And I'm right up close watching the fight. And his eye starts to swell up, little by little. She's still going crazy about her father getting beat up, because it does look like it, but that's the way Holyfield fights. And it looks like they're giving him a beating. That's just always what Holyfield did, and then he always prevailed, right? But the funny part was, the actor turned around with his agent, whoever it was, his agent. He turned around with the agent, but the agent spoke and said, hey guys, you want to take a picture? And it's funny, because when you talking to guys in that life, they looked behind them. They were like, who's this guy talking to? Like that. I'm just watching the fight, and somebody that was with us had probably a bigger mouth than me, said, do you want to take a picture with us? And then the agent didn't say nothing, but the actor said something. He went, probably. So I remember somebody took a picture, and we didn't have phones. We didn't even have throwaways at the time. Whoever had it, if there was one throwaway on the trip, it was somewhere. Somebody had it. Somebody was holding it. Somebody was driving, whoever. And I think he had a camera, or the girls had a camera. They took a picture. I don't know where that picture ended up. Somebody took a picture, none of us. And it was just, the way it happened was a typical night in Atlantic City for us. We're at the Holyfield fight, sitting front row. We wind up letting Holyfield's daughter take the front row. We wind up sitting in the third row behind the actor and his agent, and she's still going crazy. Now, I don't know if you remember this fight, but he goes back out. I think it was in the 8th round. Yeah, pretty much I think it was the 8th round. It was stopped. It actually looked like he had a softball sticking out of his face, because they took him out on a stretcher after the fight was ended. I don't know how it looked on HBO or Showtime or whoever was covering the match at that point. In 2002, meaning at that point, timeline. It was HBO boxing, Showtime boxing. And when he goes past us in the stretcher, because they went right past us in the stretcher, it actually looked like it looked like something was underneath his skin. It was the size of a softball, if you remember that fight. His eye was swollen. You could see it during the fight. It's like they said that there was a headbutt. Then they go to the scorecards, and Holyfield gets the win. Now, Lennox Lewis was at that fight. We didn't know. We weren't paying attention to anybody else that was there or on the other corners. We just weren't paying attention. So we get to Casbah, Taj Mahal. Now, of course, Al's got his host there, or his host called somebody, and they were walking us around the whole night. Anywhere we wanted to go, dinners, got us this huge VIP booth in Casbah. And I can tell you this, it was on the end, it was the largest, and the one next to us was small, and then four down was Donald Trump and his then fiance or wife, I don't know what year they got married, Melania. It was them two. Big night. So we go in. Most of the bouncers know a couple of the guys that are with me. The bouncers get like, I think it's 200 to 500 each as soon as we walk in. They get hit off right away. Now, that means we're going right to the VIP booth, bottle service. And this isn't Big Willie shit yet, right? Closed off. 5 bouncers with us, like a wall. Lennox Lewis comes walking in. Come to find out, Lennox Lewis was looking to fight Hassan. He wasn't looking to fight Holyfield or anybody after that. That's why. Now, we didn't realize how mad he was that night. But he wanted our booth. They put him in the booth next to us. And we can hear him, because we weren't drinking that much yet. Whining. What's the matter? This is all I could get. This is what I get. Now, you figure, we're paying for all our alcohol. All the bouncers are taken care of. All the waitresses are taken care of. This guy's walking in, getting the booth for nothing. Maybe 1 bottle on the house, because probably just to Trump hospitality. And he starts crying like a little wimp. This is why I get treated. Oh, it was so funny watching Lennox Lewis get mad that he couldn't get the booth we were sitting in with his entourage. He had an entourage with him. And he was whining. We were laughing. And I remember the bouncers were like, too bad. Beat it. And one guy was like, I think he said he was a bad tipper. He probably wasn't going to tip anyway. Knowing that the guys I was with, my old crew, and then we had another, probably, I don't know, there was a ton of guys down there that weekend. It was a big weekend. Whenever there's boxing, even if no one goes to the match, it's a big weekend in Atlantic City. Well, it was. This was all, especially when the world was opening again for 9/11. And I'll never forget, we never had any one-on-one experiences with Donald Trump. All the times that I probably think he stood at the Taj. We were always at Trump Marina. We were never at the Taj. But because we were on the boardwalk watching the fight, we went right to the Taj to party at the Casbah. Instead of going back to the Marina and party, because the Marina is on the other side. It don't no longer exist, but that's where it was. So it was the same thing everywhere we went anyway. Because of Al. Of course, Al. You know, he was the guy who was in our crew. He was, he was the guy. The money guy, the guy that everybody looked for, the guy that took care of the, that type of stuff. Even if it was other people's money. Even though he had enough of his own. So, Lennox Lewis winds up leaving. Then we read the next day, the whole thing, the fallout, and eventually gets stripped of his belt. So that was funny watching that all play out, and we sat for that. So it was pretty funny that happened, and Trump's leaving. Now we're partied up, probably in the prime of the night. And I'm pretty sure he's not a guy that stays out partying all night, But he stayed, I guess, to show face that he was there, and there's all type of DJs there that night, and it was insane. So he comes walking. He has to walk past our booth, because that's the way you walk past the booths, down straight, and then out the door with his security. It wasn't that many, but he had security. I think 2 in the front, 2 in the back. It was just him and his wife. I don't know if they were married at the time, but it's the same girl he's married to now. Melania. She was on every key that you would get at the hotel. Any of the Trump properties, her picture was on. So he comes walking by and then stops out of nowhere, leans over the table and says, "You gentlemen have a good night." He turned right back around and kept walking with his security. And we all looked up and were like, did Donald Trump just stop by and say, "Have a good night"? Half the guys weren't paying attention. The other half were like, "I think so." And a couple guys were like, "Yeah, that's what he just did." And then a couple of bouncers were like, "Yeah, Mr. Trump." I guess that's what they all call him. They're like, "Yeah, Mr. Trump stopped by and said, have a good night, guys." For the rest of the night, I guess most of the club that was from the boroughs partied with us, the bouncers, everybody. It was just one big party night. And that is how life was in the life. Like, that was how we lived. And we didn't do it. We did it more like guys that had money, but it's really hood money, than guys that were gangsters. But how they were. I never considered myself one, and I never will. But that's how people looked at us. And again, that's just another weekend, another week, not, another day out, didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow, what we were going to do, if we won or lost gambling. We knew that night was, a few people had some money on Holyfield, so that was a plus, but that's an end of the week figure back then. I don't know if hotels took action, but we didn't even pay attention to that back then. And guys lost, guys won, guys had a great time, guys partied, and that's what it was. And that was a weekend for the royal match, Holyfield and Hassan. And we were there. We were front row, ended up in third row, ended up at the Taj, ended up really pushing Lennox Lewis out because he couldn't have the booth that he wanted, which we were in. And that was a typical night. So listen, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend, because I will. Stay up. See you soon. Another video coming at you tomorrow. Stay up.